Okay, so today I'm going to be listening to Melodien by Ligeti. It's an orchestra piece from 1971. The instrumentation is right here on the side. It's 1111, 2111, one percussionist who also is a timpanist, piano, celesta, and strings. And interestingly, he doesn't label violins 1 and 2, it's violins A and B, which might hint at like possibly the violins have equal importance. They're not ranked the way you would expect. And then the percussionist, as well as playing timpani, they have to deal with crotals, glock, vibes, and xylophone, all pitched percussion, it looks like. Oboe doubles on oboe d'amore, flute doubles on piccolo. And I think that's about it. So, very lean ensemble. And then when you get into the score proper, it's actually a manuscript, which I love. I love seeing composers' handwriting. This looks very busy at the start, but it's chord equals 54. So you can see it's micropolyphonic, like textural stuff right from the get-go. It might be worth going through some of these notes. I find that the things that Ligeti chooses to include in these early scores can be kind of interesting, because a lot of he's such an innovator that a lot of the things that he was doing don't need to be said when people copy him, but when he first did it, like, he needed to explain himself a little bit. Everything's notated in C in the score, but even though it's a C score, all of the instruments that transpose up an octave or down an octave are written like as they would appear in the part. That's actually very typical of C scores, but I think in 1971 you actually had to make the distinction. If you get into some older scores, sometimes people actually write like the piccolo and glock like at pitch, with all kinds of ledger lines. It's very strange. The crotals need to be a high F. It seems like you just need the one. And then if you don't have access to a crotal at that pitch, you can just use a glockenspiel slab, by which he means a key that is like suspended on a string or wire so that it freely vibrates. Vibraphone motor off the whole time. Soft mallets should be used. That's kind of interesting. He also specifies the way it should sound, which I think is a good practice. He wants the fundamental tone distinctly audible, not so much the upper octave, by which he means the second harmonic, or first harmonic, however you say that. He recommends using marimba mallets on the xylophone, so that's very atypical of xylophone playing. And the glockenspiel, when they first enter in bar 13, use normal mallets, which would be like brass or something. Then after that, use hard felt mallets, basically vibraphone mallets on the glock. And yeah. Pianist can double on celesta. The parts never happen at the same time. You'd have to place both keyboards at a right angle. It makes sense. Most likely, you're going to have an open lid piano, so the pianist is going to be facing to, from the audience's point of view, the right side of the stage, and then their celesta is going to be on the high end of the piano, facing with the back facing the audience, kind of thing. He actually suggests reduced strings, so this could technically be a chamber orchestra piece. The violins are equal in rank, as I just assumed earlier, so A and B. I've not seen that in any scores before, but it shows you the care that Ligeti is taking to negotiate with orchestra culture, to explain that what he's doing is not normal. There are soloists in every group, which would be section leaders or concert masters. He actually recommends 6-6-4-4-3 for the strings. So yeah, it's a chamber orchestra. There are these markings solo and tutti, which obviously applies to the strings. But if you were to play with like super reduced strings, where there was just one to a part, that 2T marking would not apply, obviously. Double stops can be played divisi at the will of the ensemble, so that's interesting. It must not be something that happens very often then. And yeah, so these are all great notes. It is a lot to read through, but I like them. It says a lot about the composer and what he wants. Um, then there's this performance note, which we've seen in other pieces of his, which just talks about how bar lines are only there to synchronize parts. He drew the bar lines after he wrote the piece, so there's not really a sense of a downbeat. And this is a very novel idea, obviously, and it's something that occurs in several of Ligeti's scores. But it's gone on to influence so many composers that it almost doesn't need to be said. But it's funny. I've interacted like with conductors in the context of reading sessions who, they are still so conservative that they would like a note like this. So yeah, he goes into great detail about this, actually, talking about the way that each individual performer should be feeling the beat or meter, and how he just like decided to notate it. Every instrumentalist must be more or less independent. That's not typical of orchestra music. It must have an individual inner vitality and a dynamic and agogic shape of its own, right? So he's really relying on the performers to do a lot of the work here, which actually puts less work on the conductor. So it's worth saying, I think. And then he also says there's three planes of activity. There's a foreground, middle, and background throughout the piece. So that's something to listen for. And then the melodically shaped things need to be heard more clearly than the sustained things. So again, seems very obvious. Why wouldn't you bring that out? But at the same time, conductors aren't familiar with this type of music, especially not in 1971, so you gotta say it. So this is a great little like masterclass on writing performance notes. All right, so I failed to introduce this fully. There's a number of episodes we've done on Ligeti's music. I think we started seeing some of his stuff in the Chamber Orchestra series. So here are the episode numbers below. Go to the first one, the smallest numbered episode, to get Ligeti's bio. If you're not interested in that, then don't. And as always, the recording that I'm going to be listening to is in the video description. I'll see you in 13 minutes and let you know what I thought about this piece on this particular listen. I don't have the score pulled up right now because I ended up watching it on my TV, since it is a score video today. I'm a bit tired today, so I might be rambling a little bit. But I think this is one that I wasn't as familiar with, and it's very, interesting. It's more interesting than a lot of Ligeti's music that I've heard. Like, the 3 layers thing was very clear throughout, and it created this interesting dynamic where he was able to very smoothly transition from one idea to the next, because a layer could drop out, or it could become more active, or it could move between different parts of the ensemble. And there's something very smooth about it, and the transitions are very smooth. There's no abrupt contrasts, so it's possible that when I heard this in my master's years and years ago, I wasn't latching onto it as much because it lacked those big contrasting moments that I know in a lot of other Ligeti pieces. But it's super sophisticated, and it really, the whole time I was thinking about how influential this piece must have been to spectral composers, because this is 1971, and then you get 4 or 5 years later, you get all kinds of spectral stuff. And yeah, it just seemed very influential. Like I could see a lot of these gestures in Griset's music, like a very direct correlation. So that was kind of interesting. And it's yeah, it just made me sort of want to get to know Ligeti's music more, especially this late '60s, early '70s stuff. I think it's a pretty underrated one. Um, so if you like Ligeti, give Melodian a chance. The next episode was going to be another piece from 1971. I can't remember the composer exactly, but yeah, we're going to sit on this year for a while.